Stories from the Edge of Town. Episode 2, The Ice Cream Truck Beyond the Last Streetlight. Hi there, my name's Jason. That's Jason with a Y. My family and I had just moved from a big city to a small town called Whisper Pines. It was my first summer there, and so far summer in Whisper Pines didn't feel much like summer back home. Most days were cool and cloudy. Fog drifted between the pine trees in the mornings, and dark clouds seemed to hang over the town even when it was raining. But this was not an ordinary day in Whisper Pines. As I walked past the living room that morning, I heard the weather reporter on television say something that immediately caught my attention. Temperatures are expected to reach record highs today, making this the hottest day of the year in Whisper Pines. The hottest day of the year meant one thing to me: ice cream. Back in the big city, an ice cream truck would roll through our neighborhood whenever the temperature got hot enough. I could hear its music from 3 streets away. I'd grab whatever money I had, run outside, and chase it down before it turned the corner. But we had only recently moved to Whisper Pines, and I had no idea whether ice cream trucks even came to our neighborhood. Our freezer wasn't much help either. We were still unpacking, and my parents hadn't had a chance to fill it with much of anything. I dug through some boxes in the garage and found our old water slide. Dad helped me roll it across the front lawn and connected it to the hose. I spent most of the afternoon running, sliding, and splashing through the cold water. It was fun, but every few minutes I stopped and listened. Once I thought I heard music come from around the corner. It was only someone's phone ringing. Later, I heard a low engine rumbling down the street. It was a lawnmower. Another time, I could have sworn I heard the faint melody of an ice cream truck in the distance. But no truck ever appeared. By the time the sun went down, I had given up. It still had been a pretty good day, but it would have been a much better day with a cold treat in my hand. That night, I climbed into bed and opened my window. The air outside was still unusually warm. The streetlights cast small circles of yellow light across the neighborhood. I closed my eyes and thought about the ice cream truck from the big city. I could almost hear its music. Actually, I could hear its music. At first, I thought I was imagining it. I had spent the entire day hoping an ice cream truck would come, so maybe my brain was playing tricks on me. But the longer I listened, the clearer it became. Somewhere in the distance, an ice cream truck melody was moving through Whisper Pines. I hurried to the window. Between the houses, I caught a glimpse of colored lights slowly passing through the darkness. There really was an ice cream truck out there, but something about its music sounded strange. The melody was slower than it should have been. Some of the notes stretched too long, while others seemed to disappear completely. And why would an ice cream truck be driving around this late? I knew leaving the house without telling my parents was wrong. It was a terrible decision, and I knew that even while I was making it. But curiosity got the best of me. And if I'm being completely honest, I still really wanted that ice cream. I quietly rolled my bike outside and followed the sound. I rode beneath one streetlight and then another. At the first intersection, the music seemed to be coming from the left. I turned. At the next corner, I saw the colored lights of a truck disappear down another street. I pedaled faster. Every time I thought I was catching up, the music moved farther away. The truck led me through streets I had never visited before. The houses became farther apart. The pavement grew rougher, and the pine trees pressed closer to the road. Then I turned one final corner. There it was. At the end of the neighborhood, where the road met the dark trees at the edge of town, an old ice cream truck sat just beyond the last streetlight. I stopped my bike beneath the streetlight and stared. The strange melody was much louder now. It came from a small speaker mounted above the truck. I slowly walked closer. The moment I reached the side of the truck, the music stopped. Not faded, stopped. The sudden silence made me jump. Painted across the side of the truck were the words, Bell's Creamery. Below the name was a menu filled with frozen treats I had never heard of before. Pineberry Freeze, Midnight Vanilla, Foggy Road Fudge Bar. Then I saw a picture of a bright blue popsicle surrounded by light painted stars. Underneath it were the words, Blue Moon Pop, Mr. Bell's Special. It looked incredible. Unfortunately, the serving window was closed. I looked through the windshield, but the driver's seat was empty. Hello? I called. Nobody answered. I walked around to the back of the truck. One of the rear doors was slightly open. I pulled it toward me. The hinges creaked as the door slowly swung outward. Inside the truck was completely dark. At first, all I could see were the shapes of freezers and metal counters. Then my eyes began to adjust. Something was wrong. The inside of this truck stretched much farther than it should have. Freezers lined both sides of a narrow hallway that continued deep into the darkness. From the outside, the truck wasn't much longer than a large van. But inside, the hallway seemed to go on forever. "That's impossible," I whispered. Near the open door, sitting on a metal counter, was one wrapped Blue Moon Pop. I reached inside and touched it. It was still frozen solid. That made no sense. The engine wasn't running. The freezers were silent. It was the hottest night of the year, and that popsicle was sitting on the counter. Still, I had been waiting for a frozen treat all day. I wrapped my fingers around it. From somewhere far down the endless hallway, a freezer door slammed shut. I froze. For a few seconds, everything was silent again. Then I heard something moving in the darkness. I grabbed the popsicle and ran. Behind me, the door slammed shut. I jumped onto my bike and pedaled toward home as fast as I could. I didn't look back until I reached the next street. When I finally did, the road beyond the last streetlight was empty. The truck was gone. I made it home, hurried into my bedroom, and climbed beneath the covers. I told myself I would think about everything in the morning. The next thing I knew, sunlight was coming through my window. For a moment, I wondered whether the entire adventure had been a strange dream. The music, the truck, the endless hallway. Then I saw the blue puddle on my nightstand. The Blue Moon Pop had melted during the night. Sticky blue liquid covered the wrapper and dripped down the side of the table. "That was real," I whispered. I picked up the soggy wrapper. Inside it was a wooden popsicle stick. Printed on one side were the words, "Bell's Creamery." On the other side, "Blue Moon Pop." I had never seen Bell's Creamery before, but there was only one place in Whisper Pines where I could look for it: Main Street. I got dressed, grabbed the popsicle stick, and rode my bike into town. I passed the grocery store, the library, and several small restaurants. I rode all the way down Main Street, but I couldn't find anything called Bell's Creamery. Then, near the final block, I noticed a small ice cream shop. The sign above it read, "Bell's Ice Cream." It wasn't exactly the same name, but the little golden bell painted beside the words looked exactly like the bell on the old truck. I parked my bike and went inside. Cold air rushed over me as the bell above the door jingled. Behind a glass counter were rows of colorful ice creams: chocolate, strawberry, mint chip, cookies and cream, and flavors I'd never seen before. A man came through a doorway behind the counter. "Good morning," he said. "Can I get you something?" I reached into my pockets and realized I had forgotten to bring any money. "Actually, I was just looking," I said. As I spoke, I noticed a large black and white photograph hanging on the wall behind him. It showed an old ice cream truck parked in front of the shop. Painted on the side were the words, "Bell's Creamery." Standing beside it was a man smiling in a white uniform and a paper hat. My stomach tightened. It was the same truck. "Who was that?" I asked, pointing toward the photograph. The shop owner turned around. "That was my grandfather," he said, "Elias Bell." "And that was his ice cream truck?" "It sure was, back when this place was called Bell's Creamery." The man introduced himself as David Bell. He told me that his grandfather had opened the original creamery many years ago. Elias enjoyed working in the shop, but what he really loved was driving the ice cream truck through the neighborhoods. He loved seeing kids run outside when they heard the music, David said. Sometimes he stayed out much later than he should have. He wanted to make sure every kid who was waiting got something. "What if a kid didn't have enough money?" I asked. David smiled. "Grandpa usually found a way to make sure they got an ice cream anyway." An older man sitting alone at the table in the corner looked up from his bowl. "Elias never left a child waiting," he said. David glanced toward him. The older man continued. "That's why he stayed out so late on his final route." I turned toward David. "Final route?" David's smile disappeared. "It happened on the hottest day of the year," he said. "A lot like yesterday, actually. My grandfather took the truck out that afternoon. He drove through every neighborhood in Whisper Pines. As evening arrived, Elias still hadn't returned. The town grew dark. The shop closed. But somewhere near the edge of town, people could still hear the music of his truck. Elias Bell never came home. Neither he or the ice cream truck was ever found. Some people believed he left town, David said, but I never did. My grandfather loved Whisper Pines. He wouldn't have abandoned everything without telling his family. The old man in the corner leaned closer. Legend says that on the hottest night of the year, you can still hear Elias Bell's ice cream truck moving through the neighborhoods. David shook his head. That's just an old Whisper Pines story. I heard it last night, I said. David looked at me. The ice cream truck. I followed it beyond the last streetlight. For a second, nobody spoke. Then David gave a small, uncomfortable laugh. That truck disappeared decades ago. I saw it. You probably saw a different truck. It said Bell's Creamery on the side. David stared at me, but I could tell he still didn't believe me. Then I remembered the popsicle stick. I pulled it from my pocket and placed it on the counter. David slowly picked it up. He read on one side, then he turned it over. His face changed. Where did you get this? I told you, it was inside the truck. David stared at the words Blue Moon Pop. That's impossible, he said quietly. Why? The Blue Moon Pop was my grandfather's special recipe. Nobody else knew how to make it. When he disappeared, the recipe disappeared with him. The older man left his table and came closer. David ran his thumb across the wood. A faint streak of melted blue remained near one end of the stick. We haven't sold one of these in more than 40 years, he said. For a long moment, none of us knew what to say. Then David looked toward the ice cream counter. You said you didn't have any money? I nodded. My grandfather never liked sending a kid away without an ice cream. He handed me a cone with 2 scoops, 1 blueberry and 1 vanilla. It wasn't a Blue Moon Pop, but it was still pretty great. I thanked him and carried it outside. As I rode home, I kept thinking about Elias Bell. Had he really disappeared beyond the last streetlight? Had I seen his ice cream truck? Was the hallway inside the truck real? Or had the heat somehow caused me to imagine everything? I reached into my pocket several times to check for the popsicle stick. Then I remembered that David still had it. Maybe that was better. At least somebody else had seen it. I still didn't know what had happened to Elias Bell all those years ago. But I knew one thing. On the hottest night of the year in Whisper Pines, an ice cream truck had visited my neighborhood. Or did it?